did you know goldenrod makes an excellent tea?
Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, dear Aaron.
Me.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Tomic's veteran of the comic book industry for 30 years. I'm a writer, I'm an artist, and this sucks.
Tonight's episode, The Price of Terror.
Don't start! We haven't left yet!
There we
are.
The Price of Terror.
That's what you
I
get
got
when
that
when you walk into this studio. You have to
It's
pay
all
the price
clean
of
and
terror.
Pretty.
It is.
Yeah.
Shelley swept yesterday. Maybe
I
moved
did.
stuff.
That's about all I got done.
Well,
No, I did other stuff.
I moved some books around, but it didn't really.
I know I'm going to get rid of some books, and I think there's 3 books out there.
Well,
3, count
one of them is a road atlas.
them. So it doesn't really count. Well, and then one book, you figured out you just bought a new book, and it's the same book that you already have.
Yeah, but I looked through it.
Yeah.
And there's
Hi, everybody.
there's different pictures in the Marvel Encyclopedia in both of them that I did. So it's like I guess I
you have to keep
of them,
both. That's how they get you.
They're so big.
That's
Though.
how they
That's
get
the-
you. They get you every time.
Speaking of big, look at that big Frazetta box behind me on the wall. That is a book. I have no place to put that.
That's ginormous.
And I'm also working on my Creature of the Black Lagoon.
I saw that. He looks like
model.
he's impaled on the Gorilla Glue.
Yeah, he is. Well, I'm making sure that some stuff is drying without any pressure.
Oh,
on it,
I
so
gotcha.
can
I
prop him
gotcha.
up.
Not like the dinosaur butt or tail.
Welcome everybody. This
Hi,
is
guys.
Aaron Live. I am Aaron. This is Shelley Showtime.
With my curly curls today.
Today's is a big day because we have
Is
one of our guests returning. When I say who's been with us before,
Yes.
the great Mark Nelson is.
Yes. Got some stories.
He's anxiously waiting in the green room, but it looks like he's like eating and drinking Pepsi. So I don't
Ready.
think he's ready to come in yet, which is fine. So Mark, just hang in there. We're gonna do a
We
couple of
got
things
you.
here, then I'll bring you in. So, but
And we'll
first
tag
of all,
team out.
one of the first things we like to do is address the chat. We like to see who's here and
Say
find
hi,
out if
like
there's
Leg
anything.
Kick is here
anything
because
wrong
leg
with them.
kick
Why-
is leg
yeah.
leg kick. Leg kick is almost always here. Daniel
You didn't do that as well
Russell.
as I do it.
No. Let's see.
Zombie Boy, you already missed Zombie Boy.
I did. I'm sorry.
The Green Laser, Darko
Woo-wee!
D13, Bill Maxwell, Monkey Boy, 1969, Dan the Pizza Man,
Man,
Genovese, Unhinged,
I love it.
spreading love wherever
Loving
he
it.
goes.
Loving it.
Randy Howell, all the way from
Using a
Canada.
word I don't.
H is for, pardon? Did I use a word that,
No.
okay. H is for Heretic, Stippling Vaughn, of course, Bretsky,
Yay.
the great Citizen
Oh.
Ronan, Jasu, Paul Brillard, our resident,
Engineer.
thank you.
Uh-huh.
I almost said,
Our engineer just left.
I know, I almost said cryptozoologist. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not what he's here for. Sorry, Paul.
No. And I've got
See, you
error
can't even
issues
do it.
today.
You can't even say it. Sequential Treasures
Oh my
is here.
gosh,
That's,
I
of course,
am
is
you.
James.
Yeah.
Marcus Killigrew, Fritzy Schnitzel.
That's all.
The Geek Avenger, of course, is here. Kevin Thomas.
So fast.
Let's see. She hates it when I scroll fast because she like gets dizzy. It's like a Disney ride without any fun.
Shelley styling. Oh yeah, she's a pretty one.
She got the jungle curls going.
I was trying I hear all this stuff. Like I did put some curly stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
But when people see my hair, like they're like, "Did you get a perm?" No, this is my normal hair.
That's why she doesn't like living in Florida. She goes outside and it goes.
Yeah, and frizz. So I tried the plop. If you guys don't know the plop, it's getting like over, and then you get your curls to kind of condense like this, and then you put it up like with a t-shirt or a towel, and then you let it kind of dry like that.
It sounds like hair fashion.
It was a lot of effort for
I don't know anything about hair fashion.
No. But my hair's still wet. So even if I did that, people are like, oh, I leave it up for 15, 20 minutes to get the extra water out. And I'm like, I'd have to do it like overnight. Maybe I'll try it.
Yeah. Oh.
But yeah, I just got tired of.
That was David Alicia said that. Alicia.
Mice curls.
Yeah, he says
David
nice,
has
mice
curls.
curls. Yes.
I'll take it as nice.
Curls.
Well, it used to be curlier. And then
that's pretty curly.
Then I had children. Just like the rest of me, it all just fell apart.
Lark Bark is here. Hello, everyone.
John Malin, notice me.
John, he wants to be noticed so bad. And we notice everybody, John, in the chat. So we wouldn't have passed
We're equal opportunity.
That's right.
Like
Wolfie's here. Creative Faye, of course. Zachary. Hi, Aaron. Hey, Shelley. Daniel Russell. You already said hi to him.
No way.
Look at that. And we've got the great Dale Keown is in the chat. Dale! Everybody wants to hear Mark Nelson talk because he's a man of.
Dude, that's awesome. I love it.
Let's see here. Okay. So the first thing we like to do here is a little public service announcement because we'd like you all to like and subscribe to this channel if you don't mind. Frankenstein thinks you should as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oops, let me get rid of that. Zachary says, "Hey Dale."
Hey Dale. How's it
there
going?
We go.
What you got?
Well, Mark. I saw Mark snacking in the back room, so he's already.
He knows the name of the game in this.
That's
show.
right. But we got something special that showed up today that we weren't expecting.
That's true.
So let's find out what it is.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
So
got treats.
My son gave this to me. Now that's a little confusing because I'm his father. He's not my father, but that would really be a twist.
So
anyway,
you want to vomit. So you're gonna have cookie. I'm gonna have water.
That's all over the floor.
Oh, Husker will like it. At least it's not a peanut, right, Randy? Because that would be bad.
All right.
Okay.
You know what they say, Shelley? Never eat on camera.
We do it every week.
That's why I do
we are rebels.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to bring up the fireball. I don't think it'd be a very good idea today.
You're not feeling it?
Next week, I'll break out the fireball.
All right. Well, I don't want to leave.
Big hair and fireball.
Look at Mark in the background. He's bored. He's like, when are these guys going to put me on?
Bring in the talent.
I'm the star, man. What's he?
He's like, let's do this.
So with no further ado, why wait when you don't have to? Let's bring in master illustrator, creature designer, creator of worlds. We're glad to have him back. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mark Nelson. There he is. Hey,
Mark. I've been waiting so long. I had to take a nap.
Well, you came early, so it's your
good.
fault, buddy.
No, I mean, well, no, you said, you said 4:30, but I always figured with this StreamYard and all this stuff, I can never, it's like I have to go to a new browser, open up the browser, do all this stuff. So then I'm like, okay, because it won't go through Google Chrome. Mm-hmm. And it's just,
I always say technology's awesome until it's not.
Yeah.
There's never a time you don't have issues. Yeah. No fun.
Well, nobody plays together. They're just kind of like, we have our little toy and forget it. Did you eat part of that cookie? I did.
I wasn't gonna.
Yeah, you just said you weren't going to, and here
but
she just doing it.
I did.
Looks delicious. What kind of cookie is it?
Not as delicious as it looks.
Oh,
I think it's just like a sugar cookie.
Yeah, it's a sugar cookie, just
incredibly dry.
but you know,
But I'll
it's
still
a
eat
gift.
it.
It was
I'll
a
still
gift.
eat it.
It's a gift,
Right.
you know. So I got to tell you, Mark, I feel better about my studio now because I look at yours and look at
Mhm.
that looks like an art studio, right? Back with all the books and everything.
Mhm.
But mine kind of looks like that now too because I got books and stuff behind me and like I got a curio back there with toys in
Ooh,
it,
I know.
Well, what you don't know,
dinosaurs and
a
stuff.
friend of mine, and Aaron helped, spent weekend after weekend redoing his studio because he deserved to have a nice studio. He's been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
And so we even got him a new sit stand desk, which all he's done so far is sit.
That's right. I have not
Haven't raised it up
because I can't
And
figure
just-
out why I'd want to stand when I can sit.
when your back is hurting.
Oh, but then my feet hurt when I stand.
Oh, he's never happy. He bitch if he was hung with a new
What's gonna
rope.
happen, Aaron? I got one with a tilt top and all this different stuff. And I used to sit with, I have the kneeling chair because I had back problems too.
Mhm.
And now I spend half my time just standing and drawing.
Oh, really?
So you just kind of, I don't know, you sort of fall into it. And by the way, you know, that big box of that Frazetta with that Frazetta book in it, you know, if it's really filling up your studio, I got space right over there for it.
You take that off his
So
hands for
you
him?
didn't get it, huh? You didn't get that big, expensive Taschen $200 book?
Well, I was like you know, I've got all the Underwood Millers. I've got all the, you know, the Ballantine paperbacks.
Yeah.
I bought the little, you know, rough works. And after a while, you know, when you get about this much Frazetta on books and you're going, and now I'm going to add, you know.
Well, that's the thing. I just counted them. I have 32 Frazetta books.
Wow.
Okay. And
Mhm.
so you got to think there's not a piece of artwork that Frazetta's done that I don't have someplace. But someone showed me this book at a show in California, and it's so huge. I was like, I don't care. I got to have this book. So I ordered it, and there it sits, and it's it looks tiny on screen. But let me do this real quick, just real quick.
And there's a video out there of him opening it, right?
Yeah. I watched that today. Yeah.
Look at this thing. It's enormous.
Bigger than my head.
It is. Was there a cartoon that
Even with
somebody
my
did?
big hair.
Never eat anything bigger than your head. I can't remember who did that, but
Mhm.
anyway, so it's great. There are a few things in there that I have not seen reproduced elsewhere. So I don't know where they keep finding like sketches and stuff that haven't been reproduced anywhere, but they seem to. A few for every new Frazetta book. There's always a couple drawings in there that say,
Yeah.
I've got to get it now. So,
Well, did you get the big Spider-Man book or the big FF book?
from Taschen? No, I'm tempted, but God, those things are so expensive though.
You know, I'll be honest. I remember seeing that Chuck said that, you know, he treated himself to it. And I said, okay, I did the same thing. And when it came in, you know, and the boys at Bedrock, but I brought it home and I sat down and I started looking through it and I felt like I was 12 years old again. Because it just was like, you know, because it's so big, you put your hands in there, you know, you're like, oh, I'm a little kid again. And
but that's what it's all about though, right? Is kind of revisiting your youth and that sort of,
and you just go, holy crap. And I made Michael do that too. I made him, he came over to the house and I said, okay, you sit down here. I'm getting the Spider-Man book out and you're going to look through it. And he just converted to like a little kid. And he said the funniest thing. He's like looking through it. He goes, Stan Lee sure wrote a lot.
Fill those pages up with dialogue, didn't he?
Yeah. And
oh
it's so beautifully done. It is really beautifully done. If you can ever see one, I know you'll be like the Frazetta book. It's just hook. And I've got to go see the Frazetta book because you know that there's one of Richard's pieces is in that book. So
yeah, he's got hanging in his office wall. I was like, wow. Dale Keown, the great Dale Keown says, I met Mark in Toronto back in the late 80s.
Dale, I also found just recently, I did a pit card for you, a couple of them, when you had the pit card game, and I found the one double card spread, I guess it would be, with the monster yelling at the small kid. So I still have that artwork. So Hello, howdy, howdy, howdy. I'm glad to see some of the new work he's been posting, and it looks deliciously wonderful.
It's amazing.
Well, he's finally getting around to crowdfunding Pit Omnibus, so we're all extremely excited about that. Can't wait to see that. So,
I'm eating all the cookie.
I can't believe Dale's up. He's usually in bed right now, but no, where he goes, he says he remembers your card. Now, see, I did a couple cards for him, and he couldn't remember those. But so yours must have been better than mine.
And moving right along.
I'm just saying, Dale.
No, get out of here. He said that was in the 90s. That's only what, 30 years ago? Come on.
Is that all?
I'm lucky to remember what I had for lunch
That's why
yesterday.
they can't. People don't recognize you now.
Why?
You don't have hair now.
Well, I did a lot of stuff I don't have now.
I have more stuff than I did before.
Well, Mark, I can't. The reason we are bringing you on the show is because we want to talk about.
What?
You got him rolling there.
Oh,
Oh man,
Shelley's a paid professional.
yeah, $1. I get cookies.
Oh, wait a second here. Before I.
Speaking of having more than I did before, I'm gonna have more of the cookie.
Well, look, at least Dale's honest. Says too much weed, man. Too much weed. So there you go. Geek Avenger for $5. Thank you, Geek. I appreciate that. Turned 53 on Tuesday, still alive. Woot. Thank you, Lord. Hey.
Oh my gosh, I totally
Congrats,
forgot.
53, man.
Dang it, sorry.
You're still a kid to me. Well, not a kid, but my younger brother, perhaps.
I just am not on social media like I've normally been.
I know you're slacking.
Well, I'm down to like 1.5 hands, so it's a little. Once I get both hands back,
look out!
I'm on fire.
Now, the reason we brought Mark on board or back today is because you have a project. We're going to take a look at the project, let you give your little sales pitch. Then I want to take a look at some of your other artwork, and then we'll come back to your project and, throughout the show and make sure that everybody knows it's there and how to get there. But let me bring it up.
Okay.
All I have to do is click about 15 buttons and it'll be there. Oh, there's a carry-on I'm looking at right now, but that really doesn't have anything to do with the
I was thinking he's selling luggage. What?
No, I got to get a new carry-on. I keep breaking them.
AARP stream. Painful and true at the same time. Yep.
There
Funny
we go.
and painful and true.
All right. So you have this project called Thunder Hunters. Now, is this
Zoop?
This is a graphic novel, right? This is not an art book in the sense of your traditional art book, or what is it? Tell us. What the heck is this, Mark? What is this?
I make the picture. Very good. It's sort of it's a journal. It's an artistic journal of J.B. Holbrook, who has gone to Vermilion Sands. And you have in it, there's 7 short stories.
Okay.
And there's little intros, and there's sketches, and then there's drawings. Now, what it is he's sort of like most people wouldn't know who George Catlin is or James Audubon, but he's gone into this uncharted area, and he's met the royalty. He's met people. He's made drawings of the animals. So, like, one of the sections is just called Animals, and there's a whole bunch of drawings of different animals that live in Vermilion Sands. Then the next section will be one of them's called Shamans, and then it has a little story about a shaman, and then it has some of the other shamans he's met. So it's sort of a combination of both of those things, I guess I would say.
So
but do this. Scroll down. Scroll down. I'm sorry?
I said kind of a field guide in a way.
Tell you what, scroll down. Just scroll down.
I'll do it.
Do it. Right now. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Da, 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 da,
Keep going.
Da, 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 da. La, da, 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 da.
There's a lot of stuff.
Keep going.
There's you.
How old am I? 12,000. Okay.
Oh, here we go. Preview.
Okay. See, so this talks a little bit about the artist, has many challenges. That's what J.B. Holbrook says. So there's 2 drawings of JV in Vermilion Sands. Mm-hmm. And then just scroll down a little further, and then that's a couple pages from the shaman story in it. And then there's a couple pinup pages of one of the royalties he's met, and that. And then the eyes page, this is talking about the people that do these magic weavings and things like that. So that's the intro page, and then that's the first page of the story, and that's about a 10-page story. Oh, actually, there's a couple of the pages from it.
So is this character narrating these stories, or is it just like a story about him and his adventures, and then we get to the part where he's maybe narrating and writing up about the different critters and stuff that he's come in contact with? So it's kind of an amalgam of those two things.
Yes,
Gotcha.
it is, sir. It's sort of his, because what I wrote in the very beginning is that he comes into this museum called the Williamson Godwin Museum. You got it. Thank you. Thank you. And he shows up and he's covered in trail dust and smells like yesterday's horse. And he's got this giant portfolio of drawings and these comic book stories, sequential art stories from his travels in Vermilion Sand. So they have produced this book. So that's kind of what it is. The museum has produced the book, and this is, the collection of his art.
Now, Fritchie Schnitzel wants to know, so what exactly is Vermilion Sand? Is that another planet, another dimension, or is it just someplace on Earth that we haven't been before?
It's another planet.
Okay.
I have my Bible, tucked away up in here, and I'm not really, well, I'll give it away a little bit, which I don't like to do.
Spoilers.
Ooh, special.
Now, well, okay. Aaron laughed because when I said, I could say either Godwin or Goodwin, and I should have said Goodwin and Williamson, because that's sort of named after Al Williamson and Archie Goodwin, were two brilliant people who affected me quite drastically. Having met both of them, and they were both absolutely pleasant gentlemen, and I really miss their passing. But Vermilion Sands is named after one of my favorite authors, J.G. Ballard, who also passed within the last 5 years. And he wrote a book called Vermilion Sands, and it's a really, really beautiful book, I think. And I actually, when I was teaching illustration, I took that book in and I made the students do illustrations for that book as a project in class.
Man, you're the kind of art teacher I wanted. I never got to do anything fun like that.
He had a great story called the Cloud Sculptors of Coral D, which is just an unbelievable story about these guys who are in these planes and they go up in the sky and will shape the clouds into like Marilyn Monroe's face and things like that. They're really interesting little stories. Another guy who I know I'm going to get in there is Keith Roberts, and he wrote a book called Pavan, which I think is one of the most brilliant science fiction books. It's a collection of short stories, but as an old printmaker, he wrote a story called Brother John, and he talked about a litho shop, and he knew what he was talking about, because that's another one I brought into my classroom, my litho class room, and I gave these guys copies of it. I said, you just need to read this story because it's a lot of fun. Because he does describe, the greasing of the tympans and the needle scratches and how to level your stones and all the stuff they were doing. And it's just brilliant writing. And so a lot of this, because this is my project, it is kind of, there's a lot of tip of the hats to the people that have, Jack Vance is another one, because there's one of the things that on the posts on the Facebook thing has the quote that I'm using from Jack Vance in there. He's another brilliant writer that really affected me. And I've worked with some really great writers. So, it's been a wonderful, time doing comics. And I just thought, well, I've been working on this for a long time, just by myself, in between jobs, and enjoying the living daylights out of it. I have had no real deadline pressures until now, which is, I'm just ready to have a coronary practically.
Yeah.
What it's like.
Oh, what's that like?
You got all the time in the world until you don't.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, people don't realize, and especially when you do conventions, you work all week to work all weekend, and you're really it's a completely different ball game. So I have so much more respect for the two of you guys when I see some of the pictures of you taking the books out and doing that stuff. I just kind of go, that's the main reason that I'm at Zoop is that they do all the fulfillment and everything else, and they came highly recommended
Oh,
from.
do they?
Wow.
Look at
They
that.
came recommended from Scott Dunbier, and they're newer. And I thought, okay, they really enjoyed the artwork and liked what I sent them. So, they kind of said, we'll do it. I didn't even have to ask. So,
Well, now,
Okay.
how close to being done are you with this at this point?
we got about 4 days left.
Well, not on the campaign. I mean, with the book. Is the book completed, or are you still working on it?
The artwork is all done. I just have to get a little lettering done and get it proofread.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, actually, I have enough artwork done that I could do a second one. I've been
Ahead, man.
squirreling it away, and Anita finally goes, I jokingly always say I hide it underneath the bed, and then when the bed starts to go like this, she says, "I think it's
Like trying to
Oh my
publish
gosh.
a book.
So, yeah, there's been a few people that have come over and seen a lot of the artwork. I mean, behind me, there's a couple, you can't see them, but there's about 6 Itoya portfolios filled with artwork.
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess I'll get to see some of this. And you're doing the Houston show in October, right? The Bedrock City show.
Well, they said you were coming, so I said I'm busy.
Oh, I was.
When's this? When are you leaving?
October something or other.
Yeah. Are you kidding? Of course I'll be there.
Yeah, I know.
I wouldn't miss
I
the world.
look forward to seeing some of these originals.
And you want to know something? You know what I found also? I was looking through my artwork. I found a piece, and I think it was in Detroit, that you gave me a piece with the giant pumpkin-headed guy on it.
The Lord Pumpkin. Yeah, that was Motor City Con in Detroit, right? Or Chicago. No, wait a minute. Was that hold on a second.
It was
was that the Motor City Con in Chicago, or was that the Motor City Con in Detroit?
Detroit.
Okay. Because I remember that show, because I got the that Lizard Western piece from you.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. And then we traded that. And, so you guys, I mean.
I got the better end of the deal on that one.
I wouldn't say so.
Oh.
We have a lot of good memories there, which are fun. Because again, I've been out of the convention scene for a long time.
A lot of us
yeah,
have.
Well, yeah.
I was just looking back 6 years ago today. We were doing a con in Hawaii.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6 years ago.
6 years ago. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dino Palazzo says, Aaron having a guest is odd. Is he trying to be David Letterman or something? Well,
you have.
Of course. I have guests all the time, Andino. Wake up, man. You keep falling asleep in your chair is what your problem is.
It's been a while.
What's going on?
I'm feeling the love here, baby cakes. I'm feeling the love.
especially in this chat. Somebody tell Mr. Nelson I like his art and the colors. Well, for $5, I'll tell him anything you want me to. So there you go. Geek Avengers.
Yeah. I hope you ordered the book, Geek. I'll be even more shameful here. And those were a bunch of the little drawings that I did that were unique little drawings. A couple of them are in the book, and then most of those sold too.
Wow.
Yeah, you got a whole bunch of them that sold, and there's still a few that haven't.
So you have the unavailable.
Like there we these, go. I think here we go. Right, these are the ones that are still available.
Yeah. But again, when you zoom down to the bottom, they show them bigger size, so you can see what you're getting.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
excellent.
Wow.
Okay, so that's your cover art, and what's the second one?
Well, that was the original cover, the second one that I was going to use, but the guys at Zope really liked the first drawing and said, we'll do this for the cover. How about that? And I'm such an argumentative, unfriendly, disjointed cave bear. I went, okay. So,
I like that. I like them both.
Well, they're both colored too, so that was, and they put the black and whites up. But there's some of the little tone paper drawings that were fun.
Now, what size were these?
They're all about 8.5 by 10, or a little bit larger, 9 by 12.
These are the ones that are all sold, right? You sold all these already.
Yeah, the little brown ink one there, that's in the book, and so is that second brown ink one there with our hero with all those strange ants and everything. So yeah, so
That's
a couple of those are in the book, and then
that's the thing I've told you this before, but the thing I admire most about you is your ability to think outside the box when you're creating creatures. And I mean, you create stuff that is completely alien. You're like, I've never seen anything like that before. Where did he get this? What is I want to know. I want to know what you're smoking or what's going on in that brain of yours, Mark, that allows you to come up with stuff like this, because I can't do it and it pisses me off. I got to be honest with you. It's just great stuff.
Well, thank you. Well, I mean, should we have a mutual piss off session here?
Next week on Aaron Live,
because you've done so much good stuff too, and I just saw that octopus piece you posted.
Oh, thank you.
And I just kind of go, son of a bitch. You have now. I know, and I don't know if I should say this. I know that there's that Famous Funnies Frazetta cover that you're interested in.
Yeah.
And I look at that, and I just say to myself, when you look at Frazetta's line work, he has a delicacy to him that is so nice and so beautiful. I mean, Williamson, fantastic artist. I love Al's artwork. It's not to say, but he's got a different kind of line. Al's line is much more. It has sort of a beefier life to it, whereas Frazetta has that flow.
Yeah.
And I would say that you've got so much of that flow in your ink work and your brush work and some of the stuff you're doing. Because even in the new book, what's that called?
Wraith of God?
Oh, is that what it's called?
He's faking because he couldn't remember, but now he's acting like he knew the whole time.
Well,
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I was trying to come up with something. I was going to call it Rachel of God or something. I wasn't fast enough. No, that's a beautiful book.
Well,
and I see your black and white stuff, and you irritate the hell out of me because you've got such a beautiful crosshatch, and there's a beautiful line weight, and you spot your blacks beautifully. So I mean, it's a mutual admiration. I mean.
All right. Well, I'll take that. Thank you very much. That's great. I appreciate you saying that, Mark. That's very nice of you. And I think we should end the show right here before it goes south.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better than that.
I wanted to take a look at a couple things a little bit closer here. I want everybody to know, first of all, the link to this campaign is in the description of this video. It's right down there, and all you have to do is click on it. It'll take you right there to back this amazing book. You got about, what'd you say, we got 4 days left on this?
I'm signing up right now, so I can.
Okay, excellent. But let me bring up a couple things. Now, you've done several books.
A lot of
in
books.
your time, right?
In my time.
Well, and I'm not talking just about we all do a ton of convention sketchbooks and things like that. But I'm talking about more bigger books, Now I found this one. Now, how old is this? This probably is not your first one, is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is. Okay. Yeah. So about what year was this that you did this?
Oh my God. I don't know. I think I was 12.
Okay. Well, that's pretty good for 12.
No. Yeah.
Got my admiration all over again.
Do you have the world building book? That's one I'm really proud of.
Well, we're getting there, Mark. We're getting there.
I just don't. Anita will tell you, and I'm not trying to be evasive. Numbers and dates and me are pretty much like oil and vinegar. It's just.
Well, okay. Let me ask you this.
Yes.
Was this like a hardcover, softcover bound book? Was it a saddle stitch? Was it a
softcover? Well, okay. I'll tell you what. You're gonna make me do this. I'm gonna go do it.
Okay. Well, while we have a break in the action, you know what we should do?
What should you do?
Let's take a look at the rights and image of the day.
The rights and image of the day.
Hey, before you show that, Mark, before we show the book, we have to take a look at the Bernie rights and image of the day. All right.
Oh, I'm right with you.
Okay, so let's do that, and we'll come right back to this. Talking about somebody with the ability to spot blacks
yeah.
and create
Yeah.
volume in their work. Wrightson was next level.
Yes, he was.
Do you miss the fanzines? I kind
Yes,
of
I
do.
do a lot. I miss the sort of playfulness that we used to have. Everyone has become so blasted serious, and I mean, that's our society right now. You can't crack a joke without getting in trouble.
That's for
Mhm.
I
sure.
mean, when you think about a lot of those early fanzines, there were so many. Wrightson Jones came up through, the Rocket Blast, the EC Collector. Herbdom had, all the Crandall. They had,
Yep.
all those guys were doing those sort of fun little fanzines and nice little sketches. Crinkle, Williamson, we can just start going through all these names of wonderful art.
Mike Zeck started off. He did a short Submariner story in one of those fanzines. I can't remember which one it was. Yeah, it's really cool to go back and look at some of those things and some of the work that these guys were doing back then when they were just starting out. And
Well, I also miss, and I think it's sad, and I think another thing that Thunder Hunters is when you and I were kids. Well, I was a lot, when you were a kid, I was still playing with dinosaurs. It's the kind of thing that that when you'd pick up a Strange Tales or even Fantastic Four or a lot of the DC books, you'd have a story and a backup story. Or like in Strange Tales, you'd have 5 or 6 little stories,
Mhm.
So I really enjoy the anthology and a lot of that. So the other thing about Thunder Hunters, it is that kind of anthology scope that I'm talking about. But the other thing that I've done is I've worked in, because you see, this book was all black and white. So I was working on toned paper here, which I did a lot of that for the
Right.
TSR people and did that. So, and then there's another story that's all black and white crosshatch, and then there's color stuff. So you can see I've just decided that the mood I wanted to create, what I wanted to create in a book, I just said, why can't an artist work in different ways? We do it all the time, but yet everybody says, oh, when you do a comic book, it has to be this only. And
Mhm.
so anyway, I was going to say,
There it is. Okay, but how was that, like 64 pages, 48 pages about?
He didn't number them.
I'm asking you all the wrong questions. Okay, did you self-publish this or did you go through somebody
No,
for this?
it was published through Baron Publishing. Oh, okay. And there is my homage to Mike Mignola called Crab Boy. So that's a fun story. And then you see, because again, you turn around and we can do things that are so minimal and limited, and you can get so much out of them. And then I turn around and do stuff like this,
Right. Look at that.
So
Jeez.
which one is right, And it's the same thing because it starts out, this is, it's called From Pencils to Inks, but, because here's a couple pencil pages and, they're pretty complex pages.
Right.
But then, you can turn around and do kind of a humorous thing, like that.
Oh,
so again, as you and I work and as we do different things, that is something that, brings out different styles. So I meant to look for the date. Yeah, there was no hardcover. It was all a paperback. So when people are selling them on eBay and say they're hardcovers, no.
So there's no way, these obviously is out of print, right? So it's either, you're not going to go to Amazon and find this. This is like eBay or nothing, or at a comic show. Maybe someone's got a copy of it.
I take them with me to the comics book show, and I usually sell about 2 or 3. But
you still have copies of that?
Oh yeah, I have tons of them. The big thing is that, I see them on eBay and Amazon, and they're going for, people are asking $34, $50, $70, and I'm like going, wow. They could go to grazingdinosaurpress.com and order it for like, I think it's $15, something like that.
Okay, so you have a website that's grazingdinosaur.com and that
grazingdinosaurpress.com.
Okay, grazingdinosaurpress.com. And so I can go there. Any of these guys can go there, and you'll have your stuff for sale there that we can order directly from you then.
Only a couple things. The Lovecraft book, no, because I haven't set that up. But
Okay.
the art of, and then the visual dialogues, I have to talk to my guy that runs my site, because I'm running out of. I've only got a few left, and those are gone. Anyway, so there we go.
All right. Well, let's take a look at this.
Oh, there you go. That's newer.
Now, this is the new one, right?
Yes,
but
sir.
You did another one right before this. Is there two of these, like world building? Yeah.
No,
I've got a scan of that one too.
This
Do
is
you want
all
to look at that one first,
okay.
since you have it in your hand? Let's look at that one first, since you've got it in your hand.
Okay.
Let me bring this up again.
We're always having fun.
All right.
Yes.
I want to know, first of all, just from a technical standpoint.
Yes.
What did you paint this cover in?
Photoshop.
Okay, so this is digital then.
Yes, sir.
Did you do the whole image digitally, or did you do a drawing and scan it?
I did a drawing, scanned it, and then digitally colored it.
Okay. I just love the colors on this. So,
well, here, let's do this. This is the interior of some of my color work inside the book, and these are two paintings. One of them is the one with the mermaid, is a dragon cover, and then this is a full-page illustration for Fossa, and they're both acrylics.
Okay, so do you still do most of your coloring traditionally, or is it kind of a 50-50 thing? Depends on the project.
I would say it's more of a 90%. I do a bunch of little watercolors. I have fun with that kind of stuff, but generally I'm really coloring in the computer, because it's so much. How do I want to say it? It's faster. I can cut masks and make incredible changes very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you look at a lot of my stuff, you guys, and you said it too, is that I really like playing with textures and surfaces. So I create a lot of textures and surfaces that I can then, like, when you look at that piece there of him sitting there, all that texture in the background I've created. I'll do that through blowing up different things and playing with filters. And because when I was working in the video game industry, we had to create a lot of textures, for the backgrounds for different spaces, as far as surfaces, like different types of stone and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
So I love doing that stuff. So
well,
that's one thing that spoiled me.
Yeah, I mean, I do all my interior, or if I do coloring on a comic book cover or interior coloring, it's all digital. But I've got away from painting, but I've started getting back into it again recently. Just sketch painting mostly, but just to kind of get back into doing that, because I do love the traditional much more than the digital. Even though I get how efficient working digitally can be. Now,
well, I mean,
okay, go ahead.
Let me just, okay. The whole thing about that is, to me, is, again, part of it is deadlines. I mean, I've got my oil paints out, and I'm going to start working on some oil paintings again, because I haven't done those in a long time. And there's something about oil I love.
Yes.
Yeah, it is the whole thing. It's like, you can't get what acrylic's going to give you in Photoshop. You can't get what oils are going to give you in Photoshop, but then you can't get in oils what Photoshop gives you there.
Right.
So it's a trade-off, because they're all tools and mediums that we use to create images, And so that's how I've always kind of looked at it. I used to do a lot of marker renderings, and I can do them so much faster on the computer, the grayscale, because I can lay out my grays, pick them, ding, and I'm just drawing. I can cut a mask, and I don't have to worry about a bleed or overdrawing, or So yeah, each tool that you have and use creates a certain type of look. Just like we know, ink and pencil are not the same. They really aren't. That was actually the first cover that we were going to go with, and then when at Dover, and then what happened is when we went to publishing, Dover got someone to back them, but they wanted a different cover, so they changed it to the other one.
Okay, because I was confused. I was looking and I said, did he do 2 of these or is there just the one? And I wasn't sure if there was. Okay. So on this one, is this traditional? I'm assuming it
No,
is.
no, that's all.
No, it
That's
isn't. Okay.
Photoshop too. That's all Photoshop.
Wow. Okay, so this book you can get on Amazon and other places as well,
But
right?
it will be, yeah, it'll be the one with the green cover.
Right, the one we just looked at.
Mhm.
Or yeah, let me bring that up again just so everybody can. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this process. Okay, that's what this whole book is for, right? Is to help people to understand how to create worlds, create characters, that type of thing. So if you're describing a process on
Mhm.
doing this type of work and this type of creative work, what's the process? Give us like the Reader's Digest version of how do you approach world building or character design?
Okay, here's the I had an old student that bought a copy of the book and she was reading it. She sent me a letter, I should say an email, and she said, God, I'm reading this book and I just feel like I'm back in the classroom with you.
Is that
Because
good or bad?
yeah. Yeah. And I'm like the nun with the ruler, whack, whack, whack.
Mm.
And because this is not, I don't do a lot of this is how you do it, kind of stuff. I
Right.
do a little bit of that. But what I'm doing is I'm talking about, where do ideas spring from when someone says to you, and we face this all the time. Now, if someone says to you or me, I need you to have the hero holding, a Glock. We have to go to the internet. We got to look up what a Glock looks like. That's really easy. But if they go, he's got to be holding a Ferengi mystic 3-bladed sword. You don't have anything to go on. But what you do have is you can sometimes go through the history,
Or history, one of the two,
yeah,
either one.
the history of different types of swords or different types of weapons and how they're made. And you can get some really nice ideas because there are some incredible swords or weapons that have been, between curved blades and straight blades, the Roman short sword, the mill bastard sword that the English used, the Viking sword, it's amazing once you do your research. So I talk a lot about research. And the one thing that I said in the very beginning of the book is that, when people come to the creatives like you and I, they're hiring us to be, hold on. You got me so exasperated with
Getting you fired up. I didn't even mean to.
no,
Oh.
I'm kidding you because I'm pulling your legs. We're visual, problem solvers, right? So here's the book, and what I'm going to do is I'll zoom in on that. Can you see there's what there is right there in the
Hang on a
book?
sec.
Those are
There you go.
bison
Hold it up
vertebrae.
again. Hold it up again.
They're bison vertebra. Okay.
Okay.
And what that is that's where the hump is because the one thing is extended. So what you sort of have to really think is that in the skeleton, it would look more like that sticking up.
Okay.
Well, so I had those in that bone is in my studio. So I sat down and I designed some spaceships that kind of relied on that shape,
Wow.
and there's the pencil ones, the color ones, the black and white, and then I did some little color studies.
Yeah.
So
Jeez.
the thing is that with the book, I'm talking about, the way I think about stuff, the way I look at stuff, and in nature, form follows function, So you have different habitats. So in those habitats, certain type of animals will exist or live. And that's where you have fun playing, the thing about working in the video game industry, itchy nose, for about, 10 years is, really there's nothing there. You're dealing with Cartesian space and you have to create everything. grass, trees, whatever, rocks, blah, 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 blah. So, okay, it's, I told everybody the thing I drew the most in video games was not the monsters, not the big bosses, not all that sort of fun stuff that everybody goes, that's what I want to draw.
Mhm.
Yeah. I drew more crates than I drew anything else. Because you got to smash a crate to get your ammunition, you got to get all that stuff when you're playing a video game. So that means is that when you're in a game like Star Trek, you've got the Federation crates, and then you got the Ferengi crates, and then you got all these crates for every race and everything there. So you're designing all these different types of crate that have to have that feel. And then there's a difference when you're working in a Star Trek universe and you're working in the Star Wars universe, because the Star Trek universe is a lot cleaner and neater, and the Star Wars universe is sort of cobbled together. So you had different ways you could play in each one of those universes when you were creating things. So that's the thing that I always talk about. I mean, I have a page in there, and it's I gotta find it quickly, I think.
Well, let me ask you this while you're thumbing through on this, like for this cover, for example, would you like go to say like some Mayan ruins or something to kind of get inspiration for, or whatever, some ancient ruins or something to kind of get a vibe for what you want, then just kind of go and go from there and kind of change it and get creative with it to, you know what I'm saying?
Well, you're hitting the nail on the head. I do so much research, but the Mayan steles are something I really looked at. Angkor Wat is a beautiful where the trees have grown through the temples and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I both have a ton of books, and the main reason that I have a ton of books is that when you're starting out in the illustration world, we didn't have the internet that you could look all this stuff up. So I hounded bookstores and did referencing and did all that stuff. I love doing that because, it's like, I don't know if this will show up well or not.
All right.
But here's a page, and it's just
we can see that
about animals. So how many different types of eyes can you draw? How many different types of mouths or feet or body shapes or hands?
So you spend more time, you spend as much time researching a drawing as you do actually drawing the drawing, is what you're telling me in some cases.
I mean, people always ask, how long does it take you to do this drawing? And I always say, if I kept track of the time, I'd probably throw myself in front of a train. It's the kind of thing that we all know. There's times when you're drawing and you can do no wrong. It's like, it flows out of you like, wow, this is really working. Yep. And then there's other times where it's decided to become a wood tick and burrow in, and you can't pull it out no matter how hard you're trying. So, I have those kind of days, but it's just one of those things that I'm so fascinated by nature and all this stuff around me. Part of that, I think, was because I grew up in North Dakota. And one of the things I jokingly say is that, in North Dakota, it's really easy to be a landscape painter because you draw a straight line and then you paint the top blue and the bottom brown and you're done and you go in. We didn't have a lot of mountains. We didn't have a lot of different stuff. So I kind of got used to that sort of, when you're standing in a desert, it looks like there's nothing there, but the longer you stand there, little stuff comes crawling by or flies by or different. So I'm very patient and I watch, and I spent a lot of time with sketchbooks drawing it. And when I was teaching up in Interlaken, I used to make the students go out and draw in nature. And it was so funny because I'd be walking to class and there'd be this waving grass, and I would see a head in there, and one of my students would go sit in the grass and draw, and she'd say, wow, you sit there long enough and all these beetles come through and all this stuff is happening and all, life is constantly moving around you. So it really is. And I spend a lot of time. Yeah, I do have a lot of reference books and read. I mean, I try to read every night before I go to bed. So
excellent. You're getting a lot of positive reinforcement and love in the chat. Everybody digs your drawings. Dale Keown loves it. He said
Thank
that
you, Dale.
multiple times. Dale's a big fan. people are asking me to ask you what video games have you worked on that they would recognize.
I worked on Star Trek Elite Force, which was from Raven Software. I worked on Jedi Knights 1 and 2 from Raven Software. I worked on the Quake 4 game. And okay, I do have to tell you one nice story about that, because when I started working at Raven, it was a small company. There was about 33 of us, and we sort of all ended up becoming multi-purpose people. We had to do a lot of different things. But we had to paint textures and surfaces and all that. When we started, we were using 256 colors. And if you want to really see what a limited palette is like, that is a limited palette. And then by the time I left, we were up into millions of colors. And we were doing projections onto 3D models. So we went from drawing on like a 64 by 64 cube to drawing on a 1024 and doing about 6 of those. So it would be like, the difference is this. It would be like when you first started working there, everything was being done on a Post-it note. When I left, it would have been done on a 6 by 8 foot wall. That's how much more drawing and painting you ended up having to do. But what I was going to say is that one of the things with Doom is, as you know, that's the Quake engine, and those guys are dealing with the machine that's sort of taken over, and you know, it's stretching these muscles and doing evil stuff to it. And I had to draw this one machine, and I went to the internet and I looked up crime scene photos, and I got a picture of someone who had died and was floating in a bathtub for 2 days.
Ugh.
Yeah. And I painted the flesh on the machine with that thing. And I knew it kind of worked, because when I got all the colors done, we put it together, they were looking at it, and it came up and everybody kind of went, ugh.
Yeah, that's you don't normally want people to groan when they see your artwork, but in that case, it was a positive reinforcement. Hey,
Okay,
let me ask you on your on something like this. I notice this a lot in your color pieces. You have very vibrant colors. Do you ever feel that? I mean, when I paint, I'm scared to go real. I tend to keep everything very subdued and pastel-y, because I get a little nervous about going in with strong colors. How do you? Obviously, that doesn't bother you on stuff like this, because you have very bright, vibrant colors, and they all work terrific. But do you think, is that a sensibility? Is it something you're trying to pull out of the drawing? Do you think it's just appropriate for what you're doing? I mean, talk a little bit about your color theory and your ideas for how you approach color.
If you go to grazingdinosaurpress.com, my wife and I share a website, and she's the colorist. Now, I'm going to be honest. When I was in undergraduate school, I went to the Cleveland Institute of Art, and I left from a small school in Minnesota, and they gave me advanced placement, and they pushed me up into my sophomore year. So instead of repeating anything in the freshman year, I got advanced. I missed all the color theory. So I really never got much of that. And what you're talking about is, depending on who you're looking at and different people like that. You know, so I was picking up color from, you know, obviously the comic books have a brighter palette, you know, and because they had that limited palette. I think I've gotten better with more subdued colors. I just color is something that I constantly fight with. It's really hard for me to get what I want and get what I'm doing. The computer has given me more of it, so I like that. And it does give me the chance, because when I did so many oil paintings, I was a glazer, you know, so you'd put a color down. Like if you look at that dragon head, you see there's that little blue sort of glaze underneath the chin, and the fin in the back of the head goes to blue. So that would be a layer that I would put up above, you know, the color layer, and just, you know, knock it down to like a 10% or something like that, and glaze that color in to get that to drop back. But yeah, I do tend to pick very vibrant colors. And I think part of that is just the color picker in Photoshop and what you're doing. You tend to stick in that other higher range. I've started to work down more, and because of people like you doing all these beautiful, subtle things. I kind of feel like my color is like it whacks you on the head like a stick.
Yeah, but I like if it works. That's the thing. I mean, there's things where everything's bright and you got colors fighting each other because you're not separating your values. But then you got stuff like this that's just it's done right, but the colors are so rich and so alive. It feels like you're in a fantasy world. And I mean, that's the stuff that grabs me when I see your color work is just
Wow.
how bright and vibrant the colors are. And I really, really like that. I just don't do that because I'm a chicken. But
Well, no, I mean, the thing is that I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I still fight with my colors, and you are really, thank you for saying what you're saying, because sometimes I just kind of feel like I'm like this guy out in the middle of the ocean, waiting for the seaplane to go by, yelling, "What is the reason of color?" Or something like that. But the thing that I do a lot of is I'll be painting away on these, and then I make a copy of the image, compressed, move it into another space, and then I knock it down to a grayscale. So I always look at my color, and then I look at the values. I look at the color. I look at the values. So that's been something that I've been doing more of, and that's helping a lot too. And the other thing is too is that the one thing I think that with painting, if you sit down and you're working in oils and acrylics, you can pick more of a limited palette so that you mix differently. And I'm sort of like a kid in a candy store in Photoshop. It's like, because that my favorite color is that red, and you can see it's in every piece I do.
Yeah,
The
well,
red of the
it's my job.
dragon, the red of the guy, the insect's mouth, that kind of stuff. I enjoy it because you can't get that red anywhere else. So I love it. But no, for me, it's always been a battle. And, thank you very much. I think I work on them until I can get them to work with each other and play friendly, but there's a bunch that I don't show because they're still fighting.
I used to have a real problem with that when I was getting into color, is not really understanding that one had to be your key color and everything else needed to drop back. And I finally took some painting classes from someone who actually knew what they were talking about. And then he recommended that I read this book by Eiten, this German guy, on color theory. And it's like a freaking math book, but it really lays everything out for you in terms of, how color works side by side and complementary colors and these different schemes. And I finally understood how it works and what you're supposed to do. And then of course it's just the challenge of getting yourself to do, what you're supposed to do, but now let's see, can I make this medium, whatever I'm working in, do what I want it to do and get that end result?
Well, the painting teacher I had, Joseph Jankowski, was a great teacher. And we set up a limited palette, not a limited palette, but you had your white, and then you went into your earth tones, you went into your yellow, and then you went into the reds, and then you came across into your blues, greens, and then your purples, and then your black. And he always showed us how to cross mix to create value going down and doing things like that. So I think when I was painting, I did a lot more mixing and some of that stuff. But, Photoshop has just ruined me for certain things. So, because, like I said, the kid in the candy store, ooh, where can I use that red? Ooh,
You just drop this red right in there full force, 100%.
Yeah, but there are some of the stories in the book that I pull back on my palette. So yeah, and it's like what you say. It's we have to think about resolving that problem. Like with the octopus guy. One of the things I was really kind of happy with is that little gray machine head, and then that emblem on his shoulder of the Nautilus. That it felt more like a gold emblem, and those things felt a little more metallic. So I felt happy that I got those things right.
Do you how much do you plan out your colors on digitally speaking when you start coloring something in Photoshop, or do you just kind of have an idea and you just sort of wing it, or do you chart everything out before you start?
I wish I was as smart as Frazetta and did all those color thumbnails and everything that those guys do. But half the time, I'm always, under some kind of a deadline constraint. And when I was teaching and doing, comic book work and doing all this stuff, you don't always have the kind of time you want to do exactly, your color sketches. So I have to be honest, I don't do a lot of color sketches. I do some of it, but a lot of it is exactly what you just said. Like
Yeah.
I go. Now, what would happen is like with the head on that octopus guy, it ended up being this orangey red. But I know at one point I was painting them in blues and greens, and that's the whole joy in Photoshop. I could just take a copy of that head, go to hue and saturation, and just go what,
Yeah,
and change it
see
to all
what
these
you like. Yeah.
colors. And then I go, that one works better. So, boop, I put it in. Because again, these are not things that, we have you can't do that with Superman. You go, it would look really good if he's wearing purple.
When you're doing something this complex, okay, in terms of the detail you put into the clothing, the costuming, or even just the design of the head of the creature or whatever, how much of this is again, this is almost like the color question. How much is this planned out, and how much is this just you going in there? You have a basic shape, and you start noodling, and it becomes this complex thing.
I don't even know why you ask me questions. You already know the answers. Well, no,
yes, but people in the chat don't know, so they want to hear it from you, Mark.
I know. That's why I have to say it, because I'm, when I think of stuff, the guy that I learned drawing from, which was Jack Youngquist, he always was talking about gesture, but not gesture like doing that scribble line that everybody does, as a simple movement, and what you're seeing and where proportions and all that all fits in. Because I know I was drawing once with a friend, and we're doing figure drawing, and he said, boy, the first session we sat down for the first hour, I was keeping right up with you as far as, what you were doing. And he wasn't really looking at what I was doing, because then the second session, he said, and you took off and you finished your drawing so fast, I couldn't believe it, because I had all the shapes worked out. I had the forms built out. I had what I needed. I don't go in and start with detail. And the one difference with me in a lot of cases is I also don't waste a lot of line work. If I'm drawing something, I'll sit down and I'll make the movement once in a while with my hand. I don't have to touch my pencil down. And then when I feel comfortable, I can put it down when I'm drawing from life. And it's the same thing with these guys. You're constantly thinking, what do I need to get that? Now, I'm not quite as brilliant as Manola is, who sits down and says, how little can I draw to get that? Because I'm too much of a Albert Dorr render the hair on the fly's butt kind of guy. But, it is that kind of thing that so much of what we do is the energy and the shapes. And I've seen it, and there's a book out there, the newest version to me is they call it The Force, and they show about, the dynamic movement of the figure. Well, Hogarth did that, everybody's done that for years and years and years. It's just everybody's, it's like, coming up with a new name for the wheel. It's, that's where I had the most fun, is in the hand and the fabric, and that there's a few, see, like going from that purple up to the light blue and things like that. Well, that I have to admit, that's Jankowski right there. He showed me so much about purples and darks, and that you don't have to paint with black, and take it out of your palette. And he showed us how to mix blacks with alizarin crimson and viridian green, or phthalo blue and brown umber, so that you could go greenish, you could go reddish, you could go all kinds of difference with your darks. And that's what I love. So yeah, I play a lot with that.
Like on this costume, for example, did you do you reference out like certain, like the tassels and all this kind of stuff? Do you reference out like old ancient like clothing or something, or is this so much cataloged in your mind at this point that you just kind of like you kind of know what feels right for the character, and you just kind of wing it as you go?
there are so many brilliant books out there about Africa and the nomadic tribes that I have, that I've looked through. And the thing is that when you think about the Vikings, and you think about the nomadic tribes, and you think about that culture, everything that was of value to them, they carried with them. Because you really, you didn't really, I mean, you're a nomad. You get on a camel, you go across the desert. It's not like, well, I'm going to leave my books at home. So, that's when I do some of these things, I keep thinking, okay, there'd be bits of fabric that they might find, or there's a whole kind of chain of, tassels and certain hair or beads or different kinds of things. So there's a lot of that. And you're right. I've just done so much of this that it's just ingrained in my head to think that way. And it really is kind of fun. Like the squid and the cuttlefish. Actually, the cuttlefish has a different kind of an iris than we do, and that's what's really kind of fun. So I love just researching that stuff because it just makes it a lot more fun. And then like what most people say that they don't know that an octopus actually does have a beak,
Right.
and so in this case it's not a beak in back of all the tentacles, it's in the front.
Well, see, what I would draw, if I drew this, I would draw a guy with a head that looked like an octopus. You know what I mean? Instead of one that looked like it had octopus, basics, but it became something different. And that, again, I get back to my admiration for you and your creativity and how you're able to take something like an octopus and then turn it into this, which is something we haven't seen before. Yet you can see all the sort of traits to the octopus there, but you've done something different with them. Which of course brings me right back to your campaign. So let's plug this sucker.
Well, thank you for I mean, and sorry, I dropped my cap. The hard part about a lot of this, which and I don't want to sound too boo-hooey, but we spend so much time by ourselves working in our studio. You're meeting people at a convention for fans. And in a lot of cases, I mean, when I was working at TSR, you'd turn in a job and the art director went, thanks. And that was it. You never got it. So when you're sitting down and you're talking to me about, you're looking at this and see me do that, that is so, it's just nice to be able to talk with a fellow creative and see what you're seeing in my art, which is great. Because I think there's so much that I see in your art that I'm going, I got to get better, So, I mean, again, see, there's that lizard guy. I like him a lot.
The one with the
tongue.
This guy here in the gray?
Yeah. Well, the gray guy is.
Yeah. They're reading the book there. Let me go back up. Right.
But you know who owns that gray one right there?
Not me. I know that.
Michael owns that one.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
From Bedrock City?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's one of no. Zoom in on that one. That's one that I did go nutso bananas with all the accoutrements and what he's wearing with the beads and that. Because again, it's.
I can't zoom in on the.
I'm sorry.
On this one, I probably can, but it's beyond me. I have to bring them up on my.
You mean you don't have a resident gefilter 4 zoom 6.5 zoom button?
What the heck are you talking about, man? This thing right here,
Which one?
Guy right here.
Yeah.
I love this piece and the vibrancy. Again, here we're talking about the vibrant color of the purple and blue sky back there.
Another heavy influence on me, and as soon as I say this, you're going to see it. Corbin.
Yes.
When his stuff came out in the underground comics and all that stuff, I mean, that guy, as far as I'm concerned, and I would say this because I can say it in the classroom, which is, I called him a Fouquet genius, in other words, a fucking genius. He really could do stuff with color that was quite amazing. And there are those times when you go out and in North Dakota, I mean, I've seen the sun set with that same kind of bright yellows and even purples because there's so much dust and things like that reflect the light. And
You know,
so
it's funny you brought up underground comics because, you and Bill Stout have
another genius.
you have a similar line quality in your work that harkens back to Crumb and just kind of an underground comic vibe. And I'm not saying that in terms of how well you guys draw or anything. I'm just saying the line work, something about that line work to me makes me think of that era.
Well, Corbin, Greg Irons was another one who I loved. Jack Jackson did some great stuff. I mean, I kind of cut my eye teeth in undergraduate school on, the underground guys because, that became such a strong movement, which was interesting. Robert Williams, Musasco, all the guys working in Zap.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was kind of an interesting era and a time, and now I'm afraid to show any of that stuff to some of the students because it was also a time, of some pretty blatant sexual stuff that,
Yeah,
but
get you in trouble now.
Oh yeah, you'd be, I'd be in.
Now that you brought up Corbin, I can see it so clearly in, just this page right here, these two pages, you can see that sort of Corbin-esque sort of vibe going on in there. That's really bizarre. I'd never thought of that before. And now you said it, now I'm seeing it.
God, there I go. I've just destroyed my wonderful creative bubble. Here you thought I was really intelligent, and now you realize I'm just ripping people off.
No. Hey, every single one of us has influences, and nothing drives me more crazy than when an artist will deny the people that came before him that helped shape their style. I mean, we've all got it. And so just embrace it. And it's like, you're not ripping off Corbin, but you can definitely see the influence he had on some of your work. I mean, that's,
well, another guy is Mobius. You can really see a lot of Mobius as far as, again, I think some of the colors and what he's doing and stuff like that. But, they all had, when I sit down and I look at a Mobius story, it has a different kind of storytelling and a feel to it than a Corbin does. But when I look at a lot of the superhero comics, and I love superhero comics, so don't get me wrong, but it's much more of that wham bam, smash, thank you, ma'am kind of stuff, flying through buildings, doing this, doing that. And sometimes you sit down, you read a Mobius thing, and there's just two guys talking, having a cup of coffee in a strange, cafe with all these weird animals and people walking around. And I enjoy the heck out of that too, So it's kind of nice. It's just like watching movies, I mean, you're not going to a John Wick movie to have an epiphany about your relationship with the world.
No.
You're going there to see how many bullets he can put into a playing card,
Yeah, exactly.
So again, but then, then I'll go down and I'll watch a movie like Lawrence of Arabia, which is still one of my favorite movies, or The Wild Bunch, and those are movies that are talking about the people, the characters. But then you look at the richness that David Lean brought into all the characters in the world, and the same thing with Peckinpah and The Wild Bunch. I mean, they're just so believable and they're so rich, so that's the kind of stuff that I really just, floats my boat. And when I'm drawing and when I'm working on stories, that's the stuff I kind of think about. How can I visually grab you with this character that, in a sense, if you're writing a story, you have all these words you can play with to describe the character. But when they're visuals, we just have that one image that you kind of have to project so much in that one image to start the believability of that character.
Well, we got you a few backers so far, so it's been a positive experience there, at least. Can you give us go over and give us the Reader's Digest of exactly what this book is, so people that have joined us late can get an idea of what we're asking them to go over there and back.
Okay, I'm just going to tell them, no, I'm not going to say anything until we get 47 more backers. I'm kidding.
He's done talking, people.
But, yeah. Thank you to the people. Thank you to the people that have supported it. This thing is a real love for me of what I do, and I, like with Aaron doing his books, we're doing books that I think, in one sense, they are like the undergrounds, where you were dealing with your ideas and your concerns that the mainstream comics would perhaps not grasp as lovingly as they used to,
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the crowdfunding coming in. So when you support someone like me doing something like this, it's really kind of very heartwarming, because it does make me feel that it all is worthwhile. But to give you the down and dirty again, Thunder Hunters is about J.V. Holbrook. J.V. Holbrook is an artist / naturalist who has gone into an area called Vermilion Sands, which is an uncharted area of the planet he's living on, and it's an alien planet. And he has met the indigenous people. He has made drawings of the indigenous creatures and some of the environments. And he's just gone around and he's made, drawings and expecting. And then as they tell him their myths and their stories, he sort of creates and capsulizes these into a little bit into sequential art stories. So there's 7 stories, and then there's just a whole bunch of drawings of some of the creatures and the environments. And then there's a little intro to each story, which kind of says, here's some of his preliminary sketches. This is what it started. This is kind of what, he was told. And then we do the story, and then we move on to another section and another section and another section. Does
So
that
it's a
make
nice
sense?
combination of narrative stories and kind of a scientific field guide with illustration.
Yeah. Well, see, you look at this page here that says eyes there. The writing down there is talking about the sisters of, I can't read it, but they're the historians, and they keep the history of the world by making these weavings. So when you think of something historically like the Bayeux Tapestry,
Mm-hmm.
which again is sort of, the first sort of illustrated book, but when it was a giant weaving, which would that's how they would say, okay, here's our king, here's the war, the war he was with so-and-so, and this is what he won. So these sisters are doing this weaving, and they're talking about that. And then we go into the story, which backs that all up.
Well, this is a tremendous looking project, and I would encourage everybody to go and back this. The link to the description. Let me try that again. The link to this campaign is in the description of this video. We'll come back and check on it in just a bit, but I have a couple of things that I have to do. I got some black and white of your stuff I want to look at too in a minute, but all right. I've got this thing that we do on the show. It's a little video clip that I call Precious Moments from Yesteryear. Now, I want you to tell me, take a look at the video first, then tell me, I want to know if you know what this is from. Okay. So let me run this. And this is our Precious Moments from Yesteryear for this week. Now that is some great Harryhausen stuff right there. But do you know what that's from, Mark?
Based on the Ray Bradbury story too.
Look at you go.
And it's the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, is not
That's
it?
right. And I'm ashamed to say I have never seen that movie. I've seen a ton of Harryhausen stuff, and 20 Million Miles to Earth is probably my favorite, but I have yet to go see the Beast of 20,000 Fathoms. I've got to go see that movie.
You have just scored the big bear hug of the day from me. That is one of my all-time favorite movies, with the Ymir.
20 Million Miles to Earth.
With the Ymir, I put that in a bunch of stuff that I've drawn. I've hidden him in comic books over the year and in backgrounds and stories, because that's one that I really, and it's well done too. It's just really, I mean, granted, we're spoiled rotten by the special effects now,
Mm-hmm.
but just that whole thing of him eating the sulfur and growing, and
Yeah,
the way they
yeah.
played with the lighting and everything. Oh my God.
He
That
fought
is-
that elephant in the,
Mhm.
in Rome, and the thing in the
Yep.
Colosseum. Oh God, I love that.
Well, you know the Valley of the Guanji then also.
Yes. Oh, I love that movie. Are you kidding me? James Franciscus out wrangling dinosaurs? You got to be kidding me, man. I love that
I know.
movie.
And I hate to say this, even as a kid, it was sort of like the pterodactyl, the pterodon comes in and he's doing that. And then when they pull him down, they got that big rubber head that doesn't look like the model.
Didn't exactly.
So we really had to suspend our disbelief back then. So
Yeah, that's
no,
true. But we didn't have
got all
anything to
those-
compare it to, though. We didn't have anything to compare it to.
No,
So it was like that
no.
was as good as it got at that point. So we accepted it.
And the thing is too, is I remember like the Attack of the Leech people, and guys were in big black garbage bags with googly eyes. So I grew up with the zipper up the back and all this stuff, and now people are complaining because some little pixels off over here or there. You're like going, you need to go back and get a steady dose of. Do you ever remember that one movie, The Attack of the Giant Shrews, where they hung the carpets on the dogs?
No, I do remember Night of the Lepus, though, where they had giant rabbits attacking everybody. Rory Calhoun. Vic 10 Acres says, sound like a toilet flushing, the background music. That's because I recorded it in your house, Vic. You didn't even know it. So, Dale, of course, is bringing up Jason and the Argonauts, which, of course, is great. I could do a whole show. I would do a whole show on that stuff, except that they would they'd flag my channel for copyright infringement and take me down. But
well, the other thing too, though, is that when I showed that to some young kids, and Ray Harryhausen has a very specific pacing to his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, when you think of Willow, when they were doing the first computer animation, it was the same thing. It was like Harryhausen was like chink, 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 chink.
Mm-hmm.
And everything was real clear. And then they got into that blur camera so they could move ahead and blur it. And then everything has changed since then so that there's more of the blurring. So it looks more like film. And when people are watching some of the old stuff like that, they kind of go, I don't like this, it's not blurry enough or something.
Exactly. It's not as smooth. I used to just admire that stuff. Anybody that's going to sit there and move a creature like a half a centimeter, this the amount of work that goes into that. You just got to appreciate the craftsmanship and the work involved in it.
Well, even like Danforth, who worked with Harryhausen, he did that really awful movie called Laser Blast, but the creature was so incredible. I watched it 3 or 4 times because I'd rent the video, and while I was drawing, I would have a movie going, and I would just stop and look up at those scenes because his animation was so beautiful and the things going on. And I have a vinyl kit of the creature, and it's just, because it's that kind of, we were at that beginning where things were still kind of a little rough. And I would sort of liken it to, the 50s movies, like, remember The Terror Beyond Space?
Of course.
They're in a spaceship and they're trying to keep the monster into the vents. So they hang grenades on the vent. So if he pushes it out, their grenades would go up. Well, there was no spaceships back then. They didn't know that the vacuum would, and that would have been it. They would have blown themselves up. So it's that whole thing, like, we're going to the moon. How are you going to get back? We'll figure it out when we get there,
Yeah. Well, I just watched, I don't know, maybe a month ago or so now. Was it The Lost World? I can't remember, but Claude Rains was the scientist, and they went someplace in the Amazon. David Hedison was in it.
Yeah.
And they found this little plateau in the Amazon that had all dinosaurs, but this is where they dressed up the lizards to look like dinosaurs, They actually had a scene where they had like a little alligator, one of those, a little caiman, right? And then a monitor lizard or something, and they let them fight, and they were fighting. I thought they'd never get away with that now.
Well, see, that's the whole thing too. Is that back then we didn't have the kind of research that we have now.
Mhm.
I mean, if you go back and look at Jack Kirby, and I love Jack Kirby,
Mhm.
there's a lot of pistols that Jack drew that were just boxes with a hole in
Yeah.
them, you know,
Mhm. Mhm.
which you couldn't get away with today because people would say, well, that's not a 45, it's not a Glock, it's not this, it's not a SIG, it's not a, and after a while, you just go, good.
Well, at least that's why you do science fiction, right? So you can make up your own gun.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's, kind of what we grew up with. And it's hard you have to put yourself in that mindset to go back. A movie that I never liked in one sense as a kid, but I still loved it is Them. Do you remember that one about the
Oh,
giant
the
ants?
ants. Oh, yeah, that's good.
Because the big ants were pretty terrible as a kid. I even went, eh. But the whole story and what it was and the characters you got so involved in,
Mhm.
when James Whitmore saves the kids, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. And oh my God. So
Did
yeah,
you ever see Tarantula?
with Leo G. Carroll, yeah,
Yes.
with his melting face walking down the ah, yes.
I loved that as a kid too. I guess, a lot of this stuff probably doesn't hold up as well as our fond memories of it, but I still get a charge up when I get to see those things.
Well, do you remember the Edgar Rice Burroughs ones that they did with Doug McClure?
Yeah.
I took my wife when I was in graduate school to see those, and she has never forgiven me. That's a mark that I'll never get off my soul. But the funniest thing was, they're in the submarine and they're they all run down, and the big dinosaur head, which is plastic, comes down and it hits the submarine. It goes, boing, the jaws like shaking, and I'm just going, wow, this is bad.
That was in the 70s. That wasn't, it was
Mhm.
like, how could you make a movie that bad at that point when you had, at least at that point, you should have had like the top of the line stop motion available to you and to not use it.
But
You
you
see,
remember-
I'm going to do one more.
Okay.
Mysterious Island. Certainly you've seen that, right?
Fun movie, yeah.
Oh, God, I love that movie.
It has the great terror bird in it, which I love.
That's right.
And and the giant crab.
Yeah.
So there's
Then of course the squid at the end with and the Nautilus. You have Nemo in it and everything else. I mean, that was just a great that film.
And if you read the book, there's none of that really in it. So yeah,
No, the heck with the book then. Let's just go with the movie.
Well, no, I have to admit, I read a lot of Wells's stuff, and so much of his stuff was, and then the submarine went through a school of blah 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 fish and blah 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 and blah 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 blah, and it was became more of him showing you the kind of natural history he knew, which was amazing at the time. So yeah, it is, there's all these periods. So, and I've watched bad horror movies. I've watched so many, I should say, listened to so many movies because I have them on when I'm drawing, and yeah, I mean, we do get spoiled rotten by certain things.
Yeah.
And
well, let me ask you this.
Yes,
Mark. We like to do a little segment on this show that involves our favorite cryptid, which of course is Bigfoot, mostly on this show. Now, we're going to take a look at some videos. You want to talk about bad special effects? Well, we'll see. We'll see what I've come up with this week. But do you have any feelings on Bigfoot in terms of, is it something you think might be real, or you just think it's a bunch of crap, or what's your feelings on Bigfoot, the Bigfoot phenomenon?
I did a cover for a Bigfoot comic.
Yeah.
And I had Bigfoot sitting out in the forest with a beanie on with a little propeller on at the top, a sucker in his mouth with a box of comic books. So now
I can see how you feel.
Since we're talking cryptids and we're talking all this stuff, I mean, you're talking to somebody that really wants to see the Loch Ness Monster come out,
Yeah, me too. Me too, but
I think there's stuff out there that we're going into the Amazon and discovering new life forms as far as frogs, beetles, birds that we've never seen before. And it's the same thing with fish in the ocean.
Yeah.
There is so much diversity in nature. Now, to think that there could be, a tribe of these guys that avoid us, like get up and go, in areas. There's another good movie about that called, did you ever see The Last of the Dogmen with Tom Berenger?
No.
That's one where they're talking about, these people went into a certain area and disappear, but they approach it more culturally because they're doing, they find the prisoners that ran away and they've been killed, but one of them has got an arrow in him, which has got markings from a Crow tribe that would have been over 200 years old. So these guys go into the back area and they find the Dogmen, and it's an interesting movie. And it's actually much more. It's not like Bone Tomahawk at all. It's much more. Well, it's Tom Berenger, and Wilford Brimley does the narration over it. And as far as I'm concerned, I'll just get a big box of popcorn and snivel away and do this and everything else. So, do I think that there's stuff out there that we know nothing about? Yes.
Well, let's see if I can educate you on this. Okay.
Okay.
This is a segment I like to call Not Finding Bigfoot. That, of course, is a creepy magazine painting by Ken Kelly of
what I was just going to say. There you go, Ken Kelly cover. Uh-huh.
All right, now speaking of snow, I don't even know if this is real snow in this video, but let's take a look. This guy is out someplace in the snow looking for Bigfoot, and let's see here what he finds. I got to turn the volume down here so I don't get struck, but here we go. Okay, so he's out in the wood and he's doing a lot of huffing and puffing, and he's like, there, see him there walking back there in the trees.
Oh, okay, there he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's Elmer Fudd.
Yeah. My feeling on these videos is when I see this stuff is it looks like just somebody casually walking through the woods. And it's like, if this was a real Bigfoot monkey guy, I got a feeling that he would walk differently, He just looks like he's strolling along in his monkey suit. So I give him credit, though, for actually going out when it's snowing to do this. It kind of lends a little bit of authenticity to it, but I'm not really convinced here that this is much of anything other than a guy and his buddy playing a prank on us. But there you go. That's my first one.
Okay.
So this didn't change your mind, I'm guessing.
No.
Okay.
But I mean, again, because part of that, and that's me visually, when I was seeing him walking behind the trees, it almost looked like he was wearing a long coat in there.
Yeah.
A little waver of a coattail.
They always make sure they step over the rock and the tree stump because they don't want to trip on anything, and it's kind of like it's always too measured. But let's see what we've got here. This hang on a second. Maybe I should show you guys too. Doesn't work well if I'm just looking at it myself. All right, this is a short clip. There he is. And I don't I'm not really. Again, he's a long strider.
Yeah.
It's nice and blurry, which, people have told me that that Bigfoot travels interdimensionally, so that's why he's never in focus. So he's always traveling to the next dimension. So that's why we can't get a clear shot of him.
No. I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah,
my thing is that when you're that close to something that big walking, in one sense, maybe there should be more of that turning the head and looking at you for that one brief second and then keep going on. Because when you think of wolves, predatorial creatures, they sort of do that.
And I would think if you're that close and got that good of a shot of something, you're going to give me more than 3 seconds of it, right? Because this is the biggest event in history, if he actually can prove it. So
it's the usual, oh, my camera died, I ran out of battery power,
Exactly. Well, this one is interesting because this guy is following his little daughter in the woods. They're walking around and he's filming her, and they're talking the whole time, and they don't notice the Bigfoot behind him. So I guess the story behind this would be that they took the video, went home, and went, "Oh my gosh, look what's in the background," because they don't react to it at all in this video. So let's run this. Look right here in that opening, right there. See him walk through?
Oh yeah.
Let's go back and catch that again. So, and nobody reacted to this guy in there. So, however, the guy does adjust his camera so over here so that he can see him come out here, right?
Ah, yeah, there, that was a little clearer. Yep.
So it's like if he's recording his daughter and is unaware that there's a Bigfoot back there, why would he shift his camera so that we could see the Bigfoot? So he walks through there, and then watch, he'll shift the camera over to the left so that you can see him.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where I would agree with you. It's like if he would have seen, and I'm sorry, maybe as a, if you were a parent and you see something big like that walking around and your daughter's just hanging around, first thing you do is grab your daughter or your son and probably get the living daylights out of there,
Right. But like I said, they were talking in this video the whole time and didn't react to this thing in the background, which led me to believe that they were trying to push the narrative that they didn't know it was there. But then if he didn't know it was there, why did he shift his camera over to the left so we could see? So anyway, there's another one there. Now I got a couple more. This may actually be the best video I've shown on this show yet. We've been doing this for months. So let me know what you think of this.
It's Gertie the dinosaur. Oh, that's old.
This is the best Yeti footage I've seen yet on this show.
Oh God, where is that? That's really.
I don't know. It's an old cartoon though. You can tell by the style.
Yeah,
but I don't know if that's.
I don't think it's
Bob
Disney.
Clampett or.
Yeah, I don't think it's Clampett. Oh my gosh, now you're going to get me. You know who I think would know would be Steve Bissett. He would be the guy to send this to. And if Steve doesn't know, he would be doing research and coming back talking about, oh, this was part of the German Film Fest of 1909, blah, 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 blah. He's a genius with that stuff.
It just goes to show you that there is actually, I mean, if you go back, that was probably in the 30s, I would have guessed based on the animation style. That, there was some sort of idea of this legend of the abominable snowman even back then. So there you go. Luffy as God says, now that's Bigfoot.
Well, don't you remember there was a lot of Hammer did a couple abominable snowman things, and
but that would have been in the 60s though, right?
No.
But that would have been prior to the Patterson Gimlin film though, because that was 60. Was that 69 or 67? That Patterson Gimlin film.
That one I don't know. Huh.
Okay.
Oh, you mean the shot of the Bigfoot walking?
Right, the famous one, right?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because the guy that shot the famous Loch Ness monster was a British RAF pilot, and on his deathbed, he finally admitted it was a fake.
Right. So the whole legend is built on a fake photograph.
Yeah.
And yet people still think that. And I want it to be real, but come on.
Yeah.
All right. Now this actually is real. And I have this is weird. So you'll love this. I think this is right up your alley. This was shot in Ohio, which makes it even weirder. This is some sort of bizarre mutant alligator thing. Now check this out.
I saw this. Yeah. Yeah. And you just don't know what. Yeah.
He's like missing his front legs or something. Look at this.
Yeah. It's almost like it's a little bit of a genetic. I saw that. That's amazing.
Because you can kind of see the alligator head on it, but it's missing its front legs. They're like little stumps, and it's like so fat that its legs are so high up that it doesn't really hit the ground that well.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
And what's it doing in Ohio?
Having lived in Ohio, oh God, that's also interesting footage where they've got the lamb that actually breathes and moves.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
There's a lot of very interesting natural stuff out there, and I've seen photographs of frogs with like 5 legs and 6 legs and different things. the mutations that sometimes occur because of chemicals or things that are in the water or different
Right.
things. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
that struck me. I was like, man, that's bizarre, but that, yeah, it would have to be some sort of, like you said, you know, a birth defect, a mutation on that thing. But what the heck's it doing in Ohio? That's what I want to know. The maker of Weird for $4.99. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. He says, so I found out this year that I'm pretty good at drawing cartoon characters. Do you guys think I should keep practicing on this skill? Of course.
It's the
You
only
don't
way
get
you get
better if you
better.
don't practice.
Yeah, only make better. A really great book to check out is by Preston Blair, and he does a really wonderful job. He's an old Disney animator.
Yeah.
Got a brilliant book on just characters and moving things, and those guys were really classically trained draftsmen, which is really kind of strange.
I took classes at Portland State from Sid Green, who worked at Disney in the 50s, and he wasn't a great teacher, unfortunately, but he did have great stories. And he was talking about how he got he always had, like, he worked on Cinderella and, you know, those films from that period of time. And he said, this is how he phrased it. He always got stuck drawing the real people. He wanted to draw like the cartoon animals and the fun stuff, but he was so good at drawing people. He always got stuck animating, you know, the human characters, and never got to work on the fun stuff. And I always thought that was kind of an interesting, you know, because you think as a kid or a young person, you know, you're talking to this Disney guy, you're like, oh my gosh, you must have been in heaven working at Disney, you know, but it's like working in comics or illustration or whatever. Once you've done it for a while, then you forget that you used to like screw lids on horseradish, you know, for a job before you got a job as an artist. And now you start complaining about the art things, right? Why do I have to draw Superman again? You know, Why do I have to draw the princess? I want to draw the mice, you know?
And I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like, you know, when you're working in the video game industry, why am I drawing more crates? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, you're just kind of like, I mean, it all has to, you know, do with getting the pipeline done and getting all the work done and doing that, which is the bigger picture, you know, and you kind of want to, because you always think that it's just this sort of fun industry, you know, that, you know, everyone is just like wearing, you know, whatever, goofy suits and coming to work. And, you know, then when you realize, like, I remember working on video games, people said, oh, you're so lucky to work on video games. You must be playing them all day long. It's like, no, I'm creating the drawings and the things for them all day long, you know?
Right, that you guys get to play all day long.
Yeah. So it is a real different kind of thing. And, you know, and that's the whole thing too. It's like, you know, I was talking to someone, I remember when Marvel was, you know, you'd write for, you know, tryout pages, and they used to send everybody the Dazzler story. And you know, that's about as exciting as watching paint dry.
Right. Well, they figured if you could do something cool with it, though, maybe
that's what they were looking for. And I had 2 students that went on and worked at Disney. And when Disney was looking at art students at that point, they wanted to see their figure drawings, and they wanted to see their sketchbooks of drawing stuff from life.
Right. They didn't want you to turn in a portfolio full of Mickey Mouse drawings. They wanted to see, right. Yep.
So there you go. So again, it's that same kind of thing, because, you know, their attitude was, we can teach you the cartoony style, but you need to know how to draw so that we can.
Right. And that's completely true too. Now, speaking of drawing, when you do a single illustration, like I know for myself, I'll get ideas in my head about something that maybe I'd want to do as a print or a single illustration, right? Not necessarily something that involved in storytelling, but just an illustration. And it's usually based on whatever, you know, I happen to be a fan of, whether it's Frazetta type material, barbarian stuff, monsters, whatever. Okay. So this is an unusual piece in that you've got this weird creature, but you've also got this girl in here. So talk a little bit about, if you would, what inspires you, or it would give you inspiration to come up with a concept like this. I don't know how long ago you did this. Maybe you're like, I don't even remember drawing that, but or something like this.
I
What
think
goes into the thought process of creating this?
I think I traced this image out of one of your sketchbooks.
I don't think so.
Well, this was one of the early precursors to sort of Thunder Hunters, and the whole idea was, it was originally started as a comic book that was a story about it was like my homage to Ray Harryhausen and Valley of the Guanji, where these dinosaurs show up in this samurai armor and wreak havoc and then take the hero to their planet. But this is Thunder Hunters is such a long story. I don't even want to bore you. But things
don't say that. It's the book. It's exciting. People need to read the book.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I was just saying, this is like all the places it's been and the companies that have went under and the fights and this and that. That's not fun. This is what's fun, is seeing the artwork. And thank you. But the thing is that, a lot of times the things I'm interested in are, old ruins, and you hit it with the Mayan, the Aztecs, the Mixtecs, Toltecs. But then also when you go to Europe and you look at a lot of the old castles and you look at some of the heavy foundries and things that have fallen apart, and the steel mills that are falling apart in America are just great images. So that's where a lot of these sort of funny, things that are, when they started inventing being able to use steel in bridges, and there were still bricks and steel, but there'd be all these braces made out of metal. But then, they eventually corrode through no use and that. So, and again, you've got my love of the samurai and the samurai movies and things like that. So that's the dinosaur. And he's just sitting there thinking about it. And then this is my take on, I don't want to say the monster in the bay, because
Beauty and the Beast.
That's the one I was just going to say. That's more the Beauty and the Beast thing. And the thing that I've always been interested in is the female shamans and different kinds of things like that. So I've got a whole series of drawings with these sort of the female shamans with the tattoos and with different things and what they're doing. So I've always, I read Joseph Campbell and Marianne Gadabucci and Buffy, and I can never remember Buffy's last name, but she wrote a great book, which is just all about the goddess and her myths, And so I read that. I read science fiction, I read mystery, I read science, I read anything I can get my hands on sometimes. So, but yeah. So again, with me, a lot of this is just my love of also playing with textures and surfaces. Because the crazy thing about this drawing is that was all done in brush.
No kidding.
Yeah, I didn't use any technical pen.
Now this one I can zoom in on.
Yeah, it's really pixelated.
It's kind of pixelated, isn't it?
That's all brush. I can
see it in her hair, but and so basically you went in kind of with a dry brush, did you, over the top of these stones?
No, it's all, the lines are so blurred. I should, crap. Yeah, well, that's what happened.
Internet.
Yeah, the other thing is too is like, the people that I cut my eye teeth on as a kid were Virgil Finlay, Ed Cartier. There's a lot of great science fiction illustrators, so there's a lot of that whole kind of mood. And again, I try to hopefully bring I don't think my work has that sort of, I mean, when you look at that Ken Kelly, The Abominable Snowman, it's that 100% action, it's like the snowman just walks around going all the time. And some of my stuff is just more of that, like, I mean, the lizard guy is just like, there's Buffy Summers. That's it.
There you go.
You got it.
Thank you, Ryo Stu. Appreciate that.
Thank you. And, so again, it's research, it's looking at different things. And when I was inking my first comic book, I was inking Hilary Barta. And
really?
They nicknamed me E.T. They called me Extra Texture. Always putting in more texture and surfaces and things like that, because that's something I really love. So yeah, that's in the pencils to ink book. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Mhm.
Okay.
Do you have a copy of that?
I've got a couple of your books. I'd have to go look and see which ones I've got. I've got my collection of artists' books is pretty big, and I always have to go check and double check because I'm constantly buying stuff I already have because I forget I've got it.
And then when they put out a new edition with a different cover, you're screwed.
That's right. Oh, wait a minute. You're gonna go. Let me
Let's
make
see.
it big here.
Can you see? Does that show the bricks in focus?
A
No.
little bit better. Hold it steady for a sec.
Why are you not focusing?
Yeah, hold it there for a second and let's see if that, because I can see the lines there, but that's all brush line, really?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Well, I have gone from being an anal retentive idiot to just being an idiot. But I mean, you know how when we're inking hair and then you go back with your little whiteout and you go put.
Yes.
To pull out the white hairs. When I was inking a Manola story, I actually inked around all those little white hairs, so there was no whiteout on the page.
Oh my gosh, you are nuts.
I was, and I'm still that way. But
well, look at the the line work on this dinosaur lizard type thing you got going here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's crazy.
Now, when you look at that tongue, there was something that I'd seen, and I just remembered they saying that a lion's tongue is so abrasive that if he just lied down and started licking your arm, he would eventually lick right through your flesh, because it's just like a sandpaper. So that's where that tongue came from.
Okay, so you don't have to worry about it getting eaten by lions. You can be licked to death by lions as well.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's thank you for that comforting knowledge.
Well,
Master Dan says Mark Hand Cramp Nelson.
Yeah. So all I'm going to say is don't rub spam on your body when you're out in the African veldt.
Yeah, probably not a great idea.
No.
I just love looking at all the extra little. Arthur Adams does this too. He just goes nuts with detail, and it's almost like a Where's Waldo. You can find hidden. This is pixelating a little bit, but you can find hidden stuff like these skulls in here, and this little guy down here, and the detail you put in the wood and everything, and her hair. Well, it's just nuts, man. I love it.
Well,
and there's just the creativity to the design of this creature. I mean, I probably would have just gone in here and made a basic sort of dinosaur-looking head, but no, not Mark Nelson. You got to make this something completely unique and interesting. And
well, thanks.
Love it. Look at the texture on the little spiky things all over the place. Yeah, you've got to love noodling if to draw like this.
Yeah, I mean, there's times I wish, like actually with that Crab Boy story where I went more Manola-esque, and there's been some things I've done that have been really simple like that, which I've really enjoyed doing too. It's just sort of hard for me for some reason. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, those are simpler in one sense.
Right. I mean, that's why I brought it up, because it's kind of a, you still got this really great, bizarre creature design in here, but you don't have the, crazy line work. I mean, there's still line work in there, but it's more designy and more simplified to what normally you do. But then you put in a bunch of texture with white out there, or is that a colored pencil?
Colored pencil. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sort of like Bob going to work and then the two guys are having an argument on the branch,
Yeah.
But those are about 9x12, and those are what I do. This is what I would do at most conventions. I would bring those things, and that would be a con sketch for me.
That's great. I'm gonna get on your list put me down on your list for Houston, will you? I'm going to get a piece from you.
Sorry, I'm busy that weekend.
Yeah. No, I'll pay you. I'm not asking for a favor, Mark. I just put me on the list, man.
I mean, when you come, I'm going to load you up with some books and stuff. So,
all right.
Because
there's one other one here I really liked, and I kind of want to know if this was for something or just recreation.
There's now here's the other thing that I got in a big discussion with somebody about style. Now, when you look at this drawing and you look at the last couple drawings you saw, they're very different in feel
Mm-hmm.
and they're very different in mood. And there's a style that I would say with composition and maybe some of the elements, but they're very different. So which
Yes.
one is right, and this for me was a very fun, very playful drawing because it's black ink and brown ink. And it's just the bird carrying the little whatever lemur like warrior, on the little I don't want to call it a trapeze, but
Yeah, but like
like in a bird cage where you have the swing. I can't remember.
Right.
I guess it is called swing.
I saw this, and the reason I like it a lot, and obviously that's why I picked it. But I thought to myself, is this part of a larger story? Because it looks like it should be, like maybe some mice warriors or whatever. I mean, that's not a mouse; it's kind of a mouse, but whatever that is. Is there any story behind this, or something like, oh, I'm going to do something with this someday, or is this just like a one-off where you're like, oh, I got this funny idea of a bird carrying this warrior mouse?
I've got a if you come down when you're going to be down here, I'm going to drag you to the studio if you want. And I'll show you my traveling bear story that Michael's like, why aren't you finishing this? And it's a bear in an old 1910, four-wheeler, and he's just going through all this stuff, and he's being chased by a giant, going over a bridge with gnomes underneath it and fun stuff like that. So that's one. I mean, my problem is that, I get started on stuff and then I stick it in a drawer and then I start on something else. And and I kind of like drawing those little Zeppelin birds is what I call them, because all they are is like a little beak and then two wings, and a tail. Talk about easy birds to draw. So, but I've also worked on a project that got, so many canceled projects. And one of them was this whole story of a rabbit village. And I got to build, I was building all the buildings and how they would take branches and bend them into, this kind of a shape so they could make buildings and all this stuff. And then this was done around that sort of same time. And they were talking about the warriors and some of the stuff. So I was creating giant birds that would carry these rabbit warriors and weasel warriors. And then I also did a story for Mouse Guard. And that was fun. So, and working with Peterson, he's pretty much, you have to keep everything in that sort of Michigan mythos and folklore. So I looked up something called Neon Rouge, and it's about this little red demon that appeared to the people that were trying to build Detroit and caused a lot of problems for them, supposedly. It's another of those myths of, Bigfoot, So that became my little Mouse Guard story. And, Neon Rouge is like this lightning bolt hits a Petoskey stone, which is the Michigan state stone of coral, and it blows open and this little red demon comes out and wreaks havoc along the mice with the mice. And of course, the first person he meets is this old mouse carrying all these sticks on his back. And his name is Youngquist, who is my drawing teacher. So poor Youngquist got zapped in the first couple panels.
Oh, well, that's not the way.
But yeah,
I think I think that's cool. I mean, I think there's a story there eventually if you, but I don't know. I don't do a lot of children's stuff or stuff that I'm not saying this was children's work, but I'm just saying that, fairy tale type stuff that could be viewed as a children's book type stuff. I've got ideas for them, but I just have never pursued them. And, but I saw this and I thought I really like this. It's just kind of a fun innocence to it that,
it's a really small drawing too. It's only about 3 by 5 inches, something like that, or 3 by 6.
How do you guys work? You guys that work like really tiny like that, I gotta have some space, man. I gotta have some space to breathe. These little tiny drawings, man. I don't know how you guys do that.
We're cheap.
Kenneth Roquefort does that too. He just draws like on postage stamps, and you're just like, you need a magnifying glass to look at it. I'm like, how do you do that?
Ah.
I scared Mark off. No, he's gonna. I'm sure you're bringing something.
Well, I thought I had the bear drawings stuck by my drawing table, and I don't. I put them away in a folder.
Tease.
I was going to pull one out. I'll pull them out when you get here because they're fun.
All right.
The one I did post is he's coming out of a cave, and the little four-wheeler's up in the air like this, and this big dragon is coming right out of the background.
Oh my gosh.
So it's just fun. It's but I mean, it's like anything, there's so much stuff to me that interests me that I like to do. And
I have the same problem. It's hard to stay on one thing long because you've got, I want to do this too. And this thing over here, I want to do that. And I hear you, man. I feel
when you're kind of a one-man band where you're penciling, inking, coloring, writing, designing, it
takes time.
It's a complex process, and people don't realize, it's like I always say to my students when I was teaching, if you're drawing a comic book, and when you and I first started, comic books were about 28 pages, and now they've dropped down to like 22, something like that.
I think they're down to 20 now.
Oh my God. But I just said, okay, if you got a 25-page book, that means in February, if it takes you a day to pencil a page, you only have 3 days off.
Look at that, dude. We just went over 19,000. How about that?
Yay.
The power of the Aaron Live show is what brings it home. No, this is tremendous stuff. You guys, thank you so much for backing this book, because I think I was going to back it, but I think Shelley did while she was here. I think she went on there and backed the thing. I hadn't got around to it yet, but we're covered now, so I'll be getting a copy.
It's they make good door wedges. That's all I can say.
Now, is this going to be hardcover, paperback, or both? I guess it's both, right?
They didn't do a paperback. I thought we were, but they did a hardcover. But it's a hardcover, and I think we got there's 104 pages, and 16 of them are concept pages.
Oh, that's fun.
So it's like the pencil drawings and different things that I've done. And if we can, I don't think it'll happen, but if you keep going down where it says the next backing, we were going to add more pencils of perhaps issue 2 or more of the stuff from this, because the ton of artwork I have is just mind-boggling.
So when you do these, like I said, you've got, like you said, you got enough material for like a second volume already, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is stuff you're doing regardless, right? So it's like, if you make $1 million on it, great. If you don't, you're still doing it because it's
it's what we do,
right? Exactly.
People ask, blah blah blah. It's like, look, and Anita says, which is true, I'm a workaholic too. It's like I will get a job from somebody freelance, like let's say I work for Wizards of the Coast, and I'll be working on that. I get that job done, and then to relax, I will, come out in the studio and just draw other stuff.
That's what I do. And people, they don't understand. So many people, it cracks me up, do not understand, because they're like, I've been working all day. Last thing I want to do is draw to relax. And I'm like, yeah, but if you're drawing something that there's no pressure on, you're just having fun with it, that's how I wind down in the evening. Right. I'll spend all day working on Wraith of God, but then the last 2 hours of the day, I'll crack open my sketchbook or something and, do like a cave girl or some dragon or something, that's just kind of fun.
And that's perfect. That's what you should do, to me. Because again, the thing that would happen with me is that when I was teaching with the kids, you come in and you're dealing with 20 some students in an illustration class. You present them with a problem and you're coming up with 20 different answers. You have 20 different personalities. You become kind of a, a split personality person, because you got to deal with all these people. Mm-hmm. But that would always get me so excited, because I would see all these different solutions to problems and make me think of more solutions to the problems, that I would go home and I would draw all night, because I was so wound up.
Exactly. So, yeah. I mean, that's when you've got something, and especially if you get hit with an idea or some inspiration for something, you're like, wow, at least I run to my sketchbook and do a sketch of it so I don't forget it. You know, it's like if you come up with a great line of dialogue, you're like, I'm going to write that down because I'm going to forget it by morning. And I'm the same way with if I get hit with an idea for a drawing, or like you said, a solution to a problem, or just a concept, you're like, wow, I don't care. I get that thing down on the sketchbook so that it's there and I remember it and I can go develop it later. So
I mean,
I'm with you.
there's okay. Let me grab one thing.
Okay. We're going to get a little more show and tell.
Yeah. Oh God.
Matthew Trevino, Bedrock City Comic Company is putting on their first Comic-Con, and it's I want to say it's the first. Is it the first weekend in October, or the second weekend in October?
I can't remember.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's early October. So
yeah,
there
it's
you go.
going to be great because Aaron's going to be there, and he's bringing his pole, so he will be dancing, and $5 minimum. But
in my parka,
yeah.
Yeah, these clothes aren't coming off anymore. I can tell you that.
Well, okay.
That ship has sailed.
This shows you. This is what
okay.
store some of the stuff in.
Let
But
me blow
see,
you up
this
bigger.
one says, I don't know if you can see it there. It says unfinished.
That's a pretty thick book of unfinished work there, Mark.
Well, this is a clamshell.
Are there loose pages in there? Or is that a book?
No.
Oh, these are all loose.
These are all loose drawings. And the reason I brought this over is because exactly what you're talking about. Like, there's a drawing that I haven't done anything with. That's just sitting there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Here's another drawing I had, just like what you're saying. I had an idea for some character design, you know? And then some of these, I'm going to try and find one. You know, I've got stuff that's almost 3/4 of the way finished, but I have 2 or 3 of these things. Oops. Are you there?
I'm here.
What did I do?
I don't know.
I hit something. Oh, come on.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I've lost my visual. Are you seeing my visuals?
Yes.
Okay. I've lost my visual of you because
yeah, we can still see you, so be careful what you do.
Oh, God. You're killing me. You're killing me. Well, okay. Like what you're talking about, there's kind of another one. Those I mean,
I love those little quirky details you put in there that you know, I wouldn't even think to do. I might draw the big bird monster, but I wouldn't have that little whatever he had hanging out of his beak. Oh, look at that.
But you see, you know,
yeah.
So this, like you, this is my relaxation.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, sometimes I get pretty far along and just quit.
Well,
so I mean, I have 2 or 3 of these things.
You may do the best fish I've ever seen. They're just I'm not a big I don't find fish all that interesting, but the way you draw them and make them sort of alien fish, I just find fascinating.
I
would never be a wildlife illustrator that do like trout and things like that. Or painted trout. I would but I do like you take the fish as your base model and it becomes just this crazy alien thing that I get a real kick out of. So I really enjoy looking at your stuff. Well, Mark.
Oh, come on. You know, I've got all right. I've lost you completely.
Well, it's okay. It's Mark. We can see you, so don't stick your finger up your nose or anything. But we're going to end the show because we're about that time. So I want to remind everybody that the link to your book Thunder Hunters is in the description of this video. You just click on it, take you right over to Zoop, take you right to the campaign. You can back it, It's a tremendous book. I can't recommend Mark's work enough. It's just, if you want to blow your mind without doing drugs, buy one of his books and just look at the artwork, because it'll take you on a journey. I guarantee you that. Also, my Wraith of God Blood Hunters campaign is still alive and well, and the link for that is in the description of this video as well. I want everybody to know that the second printing to Wraith of God #1, that ended last week. It's going to the printer this week, and hopefully we'll have those back by the end of May or early June. So I'll be shipping Keone Werewolf t-shirts, which we're supposed to get at the end of this month, as well as those books, and that'll lead us right into the Blood Hunters as well. So both campaigns are represented in the description of this video, so please take a look at those if you get a chance. And Mark, thank you so much for coming back on with me. I love talking art with you.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Always a pleasure. Now, let me ask you this.
Yep.
When is #2 coming out for you?
Well, it looks like, as I look at my schedule, and again, you know, whenever you make a schedule, it's like, if nothing goes wrong and nothing comes up that is unexpected, I should have this 100-page mega book finished in August. And I would like to think that I'm going to get it to the printers by the end of August, and then hopefully get a decent turnaround time and maybe be shipping that thing the end of September or the 1st of October. So
great,
that's
because
how it's looking.
I backed it and I'm waiting for it.
Okay, well, the Wraith of God story is 53 pages long. I am on page 51 right now. Then I have, of course, the backup features, which, you know, got added as stretch goals and things like that. So to finish up, but those are all partially done as well. So it's moving right along. And I don't see any reason why it won't be done in August. But of course, I'll be sending out updates to everybody every couple of weeks to let you know where I'm at. So so you know exactly what's going on.
Well, if you need an anchor, let me know.
I might take you up on that. Anyway, you guys, thank you in the chat for the super chats. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your participation. We could not have a successful show if you guys didn't join us.
Yes.
I want to remind everybody there's Comicsgate Kings Monday nights. And of course, don't miss Graybeard's studio at 1 o'clock on Friday. That's Pacific time, where David Williams, myself, and Kelsey draw strange things that you vote on. And also, Mark,
yes.
have you got yourself like situated so that you can like draw on camera?
I think so. We need to talk about that, because remember, we did that one together, which was a lot
Right.
of fun.
And it worked okay. We had this weird clicking sound that was coming from your phone the whole time. We couldn't figure out what that was. But I would love to have you on our Graybeards. You even have a gray beard, so you'd fit in perfectly for an episode where you know, we have a 2-hour time limit, and we draw a subject matter that is chosen by a poll on Twitter. Every Monday I put it up, and we did one with the octopus drawing you saw. We were doing 19th century literature, science fiction. So it was a great array of material to draw from. So we do fun stuff like that every week. So if I could get you on sometime, that would be great.
No, that'd be fun. You know, that's
All
what
right.
I hate about you. You're always so serious about everything.
All right, everybody. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will see you guys